My dad was Bill Burrows, who was a bellboy on the Lusitania. He shouldn't have even been on the ship because he was only 15 and he told them he was 16. On the 7th of May, after returning from New York, he was about 4 floors down on the ship when a big explosion occurred and all the lights went out. So he had to make his way up to the main deck in complete darkness. Then he had to go up another couple of decks to get to the boat deck, and people were all panicking and trying to get into the boats. The ship was listing, I believe, to the starboard side, so all the boats on the port side were swinging inside the boat, so they couldn't use them. So everybody went over to the other side, to the starboard side, and he managed to get into boat number 13. And he always said that was his lucky number after that. I think when they were about 50 yards away from the boat, when it finally sank, they were floated around for about an hour, getting other people into the boat who had been stranded in the water. And then eventually they were rescued by a boat that came out from Queenstown and taken to Queenstown, where the people were very kind to them and fed them and kept them warm and put them up overnight. And then the next day they went to the shops and were kitted out with clothes. And because my dad was only small, everything was miles too big for him, but they were very grateful anyway. And then eventually on the 9th, Sunday the 9th, they arrived back at Lime Street Station, which is the main train station in Liverpool. And he said it was very sad seeing a lot of crowds of people looking to see if their relatives had survived the tragedy, which obviously a lot of people hadn't. And it was, you know, sad for Liverpool because a lot of the crew members were from Liverpool. So it made a big impact on Liverpool people. It was such a tragedy because most people in Liverpool at that time would either have a family member or a neighbour or a friend that was a seaman. So it did have a big impact on Liverpool in general, and Merseyside, of course, in general. Even though he must have been very frightened, it didn't put him off because he went back to sea for another 26 years after that. And then even when he retired from being a seaman, he worked at Camel Lodge, which is a big major shipbuilding firm in the area. And he worked there till he was 67, so he was just always involved with shipping all his life, really. My dad never really talked very much because, you know, it was over 20 years before I was born, so he used to mention it sometimes. You know, I learned more about it when he was interviewed one time for a television programme, and I found out more of his story then. I mean, he did tell us that, you know, obviously his mum and dad didn't want him to go back to sea again after that happening, but as soon as he could, as soon as he was able, he was back on another ship again. Auntie Eva, yeah, told us more because when she was only 5 at the time, but she said he came home in a suit and clothes that were too big for him. The pants were turned up at the bottom because they were too long, and the shoes were too big for him, and an overcoat that went right down to the ground. But she said her parents were always worried after that when he went back to sea again, in case something happened again.